lines is such a fascinating topic because I think a lot of people, if they're maybe outside the kind of spiritual communities or spiritual understandings, just kind of dismiss it, right, as woo woo. But that's one of the really beautiful things about kind of modern day science and using kind of scientific methods is that we're actually able now to gauge, to measure, to quantify what's known as ley lines through various methods. We can use various devices to look at caloric currents, magnetic sensitivity, electrical conductivity in places. But ultimately, I always found a curiosity of why certain sacred sites were placed in certain areas, right? And especially when you look in ancient Britain and you look at stone circles and standing stones and different types of sacred sites, they all seem to be on a grid. They all seem to be on a pathway. They all seem to be connected in one way or another. And this is what we find we've discovered over time is that all of these ancient peoples seem to place their sacred sites, their areas of, ritual importance on these pathways, on these certain areas or in these certain ways, which all of them are linked up by these energies. And this is one of the universal things we see spread out among all mystery school teachings, of the ancient world, is they all recognize there was some sort of connection, whether you call them ley lines, energy lines, dragon lines, that they all linked up and created this really powerful grid. And this is something that we can start to explore because if you look at these maps, you're getting to see some of them on the screen right now. When you start to look at sacred sites, especially if they're sacred sites you feel connected to, you'll notice that they are linked up. There's like this energetic choreography going on. And when we influence one sacred site, the energy of the other sacred sites that are connected to that grid tends to be affected, right? It's modulated, it's augmented in one way or another. So it's very clear that the ancient peoples, even though we can't exactly say what they were using these grid lines for, they certainly had an awareness of this grid line. They certainly had an understanding that there was this vast network that was there. And so I think what we're doing today is we all intuitively have this awareness, you could say, this energy sensitivity when we're at certain sacred sites or when we're walking certain places where there's an energy line on, we feel it. And so we're kind of learning, one, how to develop our own intuitive understanding and ability to sense these energies, but also we're developing scientific methods to measure these lines, to measure these sacred sites. And so we're finding, both, it's like the left brain and the right brain, right? The intellect as well as the spirit. We're starting to see and understand that this grid system not only is ancient, but is very important today. And perhaps that will open up into ways that as we move forward as a collective, and especially as we open ourselves up as a collective, we'll be able to interface and interact with these grid lines. Because I think that play, at least from my perspective on it, working with these ley lines consciously as a wider collective played an important role in expanding and affecting the consciousness of the planet. And I think that awareness and that understanding is really starting to come back. And I notice it especially because I see so many people posting about grid work, right? Grid lines, ley lines, connecting to different sacred sites. And that's the fun of what we're seeing now. We're seeing these things opening up and we're seeing it becoming, much more mainstream than it's ever been, which maybe synchronistically has to do with these ley lines waking up, right? So the more we wake up these grid systems, the more people wake up. And the more people that wake up, the more these grid systems kind of wake up. So there's some very interesting things happening around this topic. But